Cool.
All right, so we sat and had another little discussion in between what we decided we're going to have a second discussion here.
Absolutely.
Because I know that there's a lot on this paper and I didn't even touch it. Mark was polite enough to bring in a sheet with questions right from his website, which is good. And think road savvy, not safety, road savvy, key things to remember, empowering new riders, safety, mastering the basics. And we've decided that we're going to cover, and some notes are, we're going to cover page 3. And you should go get this information.
It's all on the website.
Office website, which we have on the wall. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we built the wall. It is on the screen behind me here. Take a look here. And that is his website, Empowering New Ridings, new on 2llc.com. So do check that out and everything you could ever dream of knowing about riding a motor. You don't say driving, you say riding a motorcycle, but you're actually driving it, right? You're steering it. You're controlling the motorcycle.
No, you're riding it.
Okay, you're riding it.
You're riding it.
But somebody's got control of it.
Yeah, you do. That is absolutely correct.
But we wanted to talk about a number of things that we didn't cover that first half hour. So stick around for another half hour. Let's talk about some more. And I'll go down these. One of the first topics that we wanted to talk about, because it's becoming you always have to take care of those people who need to be taken, you need help, right? And for years and years, there's been the guys, they're always up on the motorcycles, and the guy, they're all burly and don't tell me what to do and all that. And then now it's been more, we got girls playing hockey, we got girls playing soccer, we got girls or ladies are enjoying driving motorcycles now.
Well,
like
I mentioned in the last segment, the fastest growing demographic is women riders. And I should probably make a point of saying that prior to opening this company and getting into riding instruction, in a previous life, I obviously was an instructor for IT. I've taught Windows. I've taught NT Workstation 4. I'm dating myself. And Windows 90, Office 98 for the Defense Finance and Accounting Systems for about 6 months, which was way too many classes to go through. The point being simply that as an instructor, I'm empathetic towards my students. And one of the things that I should make a point of, given that women are the fastest growing demographic, is that I understand this is a male-dominated leisure time activity, if you will. That said, I'm not one to look at this through a lens of where am I going to wear all my leather gear, et cetera, et cetera. I'm here to teach you how to safely ride your motorcycle so that you can get out there and experience it. If you're riding with a group of girls, if you're riding by yourself, if you're riding with your other half, I ride with the AMVETS Riders Group out of AMVETS 106. We have women in our riding group. There are women instructors for your endorsement. We're sensitive to that. So you're not going to be bullied if you call me up, and I'm not going to make you feel like you're just too stupid to be on a motorcycle. I'm not going down that road. I will teach you how to safely operate this bike.
Well, and that's something that we had a quick discussion in between. It was like, how often is it the case? And this is the way the world is a little bit. You just understand that women and men, we're not exactly the same, obviously. And it's kind of that culture, a little bit of, a girl may feel like I don't want to look stupid by asking these guys to teach me how to ride a motorcycle.
Exactly.
And so the guys are going to be like, come on, babe, just get on back. You don't need to worry about it. But she wants to learn how to ride a motorcycle.
Exactly.
So instead of bothering with trying to get the guy to come on, teach me or whatever, now what? Oh, hey, just call Mark and he'll say, hey, ma'am,
precisely,
young lady,
I will meet you.
I will make sure
and we will do
you
this.
can walk out to the next motorcycle rally, the next big event
on your own bike.
On your own bike, and these guys are going to go, whoa.
Yep, there's a lady rider. Exactly.
Right.
As opposed to, I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm unbalancing the playing field by asking a question. That's just wrong. We can do this. And that's one of the things I want to make sure that I get out there, because it's an important aspect. I have a good friend that I taught. She began on a Yamaha 900 and promptly dropped it in the street. Failed her endorsement test 3 times. was very dejected about the fact that she had always wanted to ride a motorcycle. And this woman was, she was in her late 50s, early 60s, and first time on a bike. Finally found the right bike, got on the bike, began to practice. She's now riding a 950-pound touring bike and has gone all the way to the East Coast, up and down the East Coast, back through the Smokies, and is very comfortable. She's been riding a grand total now of about 2.5 years. So it's not something that cannot be done. It's certainly something that you can do and you should do. It is very empowering in that regard, and so I just want to make it a special mention to the feminine gender out there who may or may not be looking at it like, oh my God, I always thought about that, but there's no way I could do that. If you're more comfortable being a rider on the back seat of somebody else's bike, more power to you. But if you'd like to take that trip out Highway 70 into Denver and see the Grand Canyon with two of your gal pals, why not? There's nothing that stops you.
There you go. And like I said, I mean, we like to see girls being empowered.
Absolutely.
Ladies being empowered. My mom, anybody knows her, you do not mess with Mrs. R. There's one of my favorite pictures of her. And John Goodman's holding that plaque up. It says the Judy Rethwish Auditorium. And I think women are amazing creatures. I think they've got more, they can do better things than men in many cases, all kinds of different ways.
And culturally, we're changing across the board. Like I said, there's no reason to sit at home and wonder if you're going to be met with the condescension that sometimes is associated with guys who ride motorcycles. That's not gonna happen.
Well, knowing you for a few weeks now, right? But in many hours of discussion we've had, Mark helped me make my trip back to St. Louis from Nashville. I gave away the secret to everybody. I say, where does everybody think the Cardinal Cowboy was? Because sometimes I don't announce where I'm at, depending on what's going on. And people go, oh, you're down at one of my new favorite places, Little Nashville, down on Main Street, right next to the Honky Tonk, which is one of my favorite places right here on Main Street, St. Charles. I was actually in Nashville, like Nashville, Tennessee, and talking to my friends and making connections. And we talked to Garth Brooks people, and they said, okay, we'll start the conversation here, see if we can maybe make something happen there. And my other buddy's got connection with Kid Rock and knows him personally. We're going to try to make this thing bigger and better so we can connect with more people. But on my discussion on my ride home, it seemed like it was a half-hour ride. It's a 5-hour ride. But Mark and I had 2 hours of that. He knocked out with me talking about these kinds of subjects that we like to cover because we want to make the world a better place for everybody. We got a lot of things to share, and most people can share, but they just don't seem to have the time to. But Mark really wants to, and he's done that a lot in a number of different ways. And what you're doing now is helping people to understand riding a motorcycle is an incredible experience, but you want to make sure you're confident in doing so, because if you don't do it right, you can cause some problems.
Well, a lot of this has to do with frame of reference, and a lot of this has to do with perspective. I remember teaching a Windows class, and we were going to talk about temp directories, and I told the class to put their mouths in the upper right hand corner of their screen, and I turned around from the board, and some little old lady in her 70s was holding her mouse at the top of her monitor. It's all about perspective, and if you don't know what you don't know, and if you're afraid to ask those questions, if you're afraid or you're nervous or you feel like you're somehow going to be lessened by asking, then you cut yourself out of the possibilities of knowing. And that's just a shame, especially when it relates to motorcycle riding, because there's so much beauty to be seen in this country, whether you're just riding down 44 through the Mark Twain National Forest. Dogwood Canyon is down that way. Or you're cutting up around the River Road and going into Hardin for a piece of pie and then taking a ferry back home. Or you're cutting across Illinois through the bean fields just to see where the wind farms are on the way up 55. There's so much to be seen, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be out there doing it. If you have the notion that, hey, I want to ride, let's do that. Let me help.
Absolutely. That's what I say. I had told friends in the past, full disclosure, I don't know if I'll ever ride a motorcycle, just because I know what is the potential. That's a scarcity perspective. Nobody should ever have that perspective. But hey, man, I've got a lot I want to conquer, and I'd be a little afraid that I might hurt myself in a terrible fashion on a motorcycle. But that was mostly because I never talked to anybody like you. And until I talked to you, I go, I want to be confident that I'm not going to cause myself any damage.
Exactly.
And until I had a conversation with you and understand, wow, there's a lot of safeguards, because it's pretty much get on a motorcycle and figure it out. That's not
Bingo.
a good way to do it.
That is not the way to do it. Yeah, no, that is not the way to do it. No. And we can cover those topics. We can go through all of those things that will make riders nervous. You know, gravel, that's a great thing to begin with. Wet pavement. These are all things that are of concern, that you may or may not have any insight to whatsoever. And if you see them in a car, it's a completely different experience. Like I said in our previous session, the tar tracks in the road where the cracks have been filled in with tar that heat up in the summertime, your car doesn't care. It doesn't know anything at all about that. It just rolls down the road. On a bike, you'll notice that immediately. The shift in pavement, and maybe the shift in pavement is only like that, a half an inch. But when that tire goes over and the entire bike goes like this, it shifts on you. If you don't know that's coming, that's scary. When you go over grooved pavement and you feel the back end of the bike grabbing, that's your tire grabbing those grooves. But you don't experience that in a car because you got four wheels. You're just rolling down the lane. So there are all these little imperceptible things that you're not going to be told about until you're in the middle of it. And that's not a comfortable, enjoyable experience. That's what we're trying to make sure people don't have to live through in order to learn about it. We can do that in a safe, static environment and talk about these things and then go for a ride. If you have your bike with you, which you will, if you have your bike with you, I'll ride with you. We'll go down one of those roads. We can go for practice rides. Whatever level of assistance you need, I can provide that.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's a long list of topics here that Mark has on his website, and we're going to go through these right now. It may take another hour and a half, but we're going to do it. We will have to cut it off. It'll get cut off for what is airing on ABC at 28 minutes, 30 seconds. We're 12 minutes, 47, 48, 49.
We have time.
We have
Rock on.
16 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 seconds. Not 50, now we got 15. We have 15 minutes, period. All right, here we go. Turns, starts, and stops. Why are turns, starts, and stops? I mean, come on, it's a turn, start, and a stop.
You're correct. There is when you stop, there is a smooth stop. There is an oh crap stop, and there is a can I get my feet on the ground fast enough to hold this thing up stop. Okay. There are starts. There are from a dead stop into a turn or driving straight forward. There's a whole difference between that. If you're making a turn and you're at a stop and you're going to make a 90-degree turn, you're going to move your handlebars, you're also going to shift your weight on the saddle because the bike wants to naturally go in a certain manner. If you turn your head, the bike is going wherever you're looking. These are silly things, and you'll practice them to some extent for your endorsement in your course. However, it doesn't prepare you again for being at the corner of trying to make that right-hand turn in traffic with other people in a busy intersection. And that's not a time to be second-guessing how you operate and manage the clutch, the brake, the lean, the shift of your weight, the throttle, all the above to safely execute that 90-degree turn. May seem like nothing, but it can be frightening.
Okay, we got another important one here because that you covered a lot there, and I know you could. Mark is a very eloquently, well-spoken young man, and you need to spend some time talking to him. We are constrained by time limits here, so I'm going to politely say, Mark, let me move on.
All right, move on.
No worries. Please, because I want to cover these. These are important. Riding on gravel. We talked a little bit about that, but I mean, of course, it's the gravel. Yeah. But what are the tips for that? Because how would somebody understand? Here's how you handle.
Well, see, there it is that people get in their head. Well, then I just ride on gravel. No, you don't. No, what you do is you put your feet down You put that thing in first gear, and you very slowly and comfortably walk that across that gravel turn in the parking lot to get out of gravel and back onto asphalt. Now, if you have to ride in a gravel road, well, then you're going to do that in the lowest gear. You can keep the bike up, balanced, and moving forward comfortably in. There's no speeding, shifting, playing around on gravel. You avoid it at all, if at all possible, simply because it's not comfortable, and you don't want to be on gravel if you can at all avoid it. One of the other things that goes hand in hand with that is the clutch and gear, clutches and gearing. You will get better mileage the higher gear you're in, obviously, but you don't want the bike to lug down, and you need to have control. If you don't have acceleration at your fingertips because you're in too high a gear, you're not exercising the greatest amount of control over that bike. You want to put that into the gear that allows you response from your throttle, immediate response. Because again, you have two things going for you, maneuverability and acceleration. Giving one of those up cuts your advantages in half.
No, okay, so now we're getting into really how we manage these things. Clutching and gearing, I mean, something
Yes.
that obviously doesn't come natural to most people.
Well,
I gotta
especially
shift gears.
given that now we have all automatic transmissions.
Right.
And for the most part, people don't drive standard transmissions anymore, so they're not attuned to the whine of the engine, the RPMs, where are my shift points, how does the bike perform at what gear. So yeah, those are considerations. And so one of the other things that I try to deal with when I meet with a client, when I meet with somebody, the first thing that we talk about is what are you nervous about? What do you feel less than confident in doing? How can I address what you're nervous about? Where do you not want to ride because of the pavement? Where do you not want to be because of whatever? That you don't like the wind. You don't like the fact that there's no shoulder. There's a gravel shoulder. The pavement is choppy. All of those things are things that we will go over when I meet with you to discuss, or when we talk on the phone prior to getting together to ride. We will address those things because again, I tailor a training session to what your needs are, as opposed to, well, here's all the stuff that you should know. Ready? A, B, C, D, E. No, this is a bit more ad hoc, based on what do you need, as opposed to, well, these are all the things you ought to know. If I see something that's just foreign and you don't need to be, I will certainly correct it. However, when we talk about what services are you requiring, it has everything to do with how you feel on your bike.
And that's something that's different for every single person, has a different
Absolutely.
feel, even if they're riding even if two people, not one, not three, not four or five, but if you have two bikes,
Yes.
they're identical.
Yes.
Two different riders,
They're
they're going to be totally different experiences for each one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's why you need more. I don't want to, like, you have to have training on your motorcycle. You should never ride your motorcycle. But I'm pretty much saying you better darn well get some training for this thing. And like I said, the reason I have not purchased a motorcycle, because I want one. I've done well in life, and I can afford to get a motorcycle. And I just am like, I'm afraid, man. But if I can get somebody that will show me at the level, I should have figured there was somebody out there. I just didn't met him personally. And I get to know somebody that I met personally. And I'm like, this guy I trust. I would trust him with my kids. I don't have any kids that I know of. But I have somebody like Mark really has that focus on life and what you're going to do to make sure, and you really care. I mean, and the other thing I can tell is you're not gouging people with this, this at all. You're saying, hey, here's a good opportunity to just learn. I want to just help people.
Exactly. I did not start this company with the idea that I would somehow become independently wealthy. It's not going to happen. I have a better shot at the right 6 numbers. But the fact of the matter is I really enjoy riding my bike. I really enjoy the sense of freedom I get. I really enjoy that edginess where you feel 100% engaged with the world around you, and you're at your optimum. Sharing that sensation with people and affording them the means by which to experience that. That's a big thing. There's so much to see in this country, and you're not going to see it flying between airports. It's just not going to happen. And there's so much that we just don't know anything about. On account of we never get out of our house. We never get outside our little comfort zone. Even though we carry these dreams around, well, you mentioned the boat earlier. It's the same thing. I mean, if I had a boat, okay, well, I could have a John boat with a little motor on it. Maybe I know how to do that. I'd be okay with that. But I don't know if I'm venturing that across the Mississippi, or maybe I'll jump into one of the sloughs on the Missouri. But I'm not jumping. Well, why? That's just silly, because boating can be a really awesome experience as well. My son has a boat. He's in and out of the Intercoastal Waterway down there by Wilmington. I can't drive his boat because I don't drive his boat. He knows how to ride. He knows how to drive that boat. He's very comfortable with it. If I spent a day with him learning how to drive that boat, I would probably be compelled to find a used pontoon up here in St. Louis and put it in the water. Yes. But I haven't done that. And as a result, that's the only thing that keeps me away from it. And this is just one of those same examples of on a motorcycle.
Well, again, great point you make here, because life is meant to be enjoyed, and why not?
Exactly.
There's only a few ways you can travel on this little planet at this point.
Exactly.
That are going to be natural, or I mean, I guess you could get a kayak and you could paddle, but you're not going to go too far. I do float trips all the time, love that. But to get around and experience planets, trains, planes, automobiles, and motorcycles.
Amen. Amen. And the closest thing you can get to being in that moment is on 2 wheels.
There you go. All right, everybody. We've got a few minutes left here. I want to cover a few more of these, if it's okay with you, Mark.
Absolutely.
Common mistakes. This is a common question I have. I ask, what's the biggest mistake? What are a few of the mistakes that people make when purchasing a motorcycle and then not having training, I guess? But what happens?
Go sit on the bike. Find something that fits you. Find something that speaks to you in aesthetics, in feel, where your feet are. Put them on the ground, sit on the bike, put the kickstand down, put your feet up. Find where the gears are. Feel where it feels good for you. Do not buy into the hype. No, you don't need ape hangers. No, you probably don't want handlebars all the way down here. How about something that's comfortable for you and your arms on a bike that is comfortable for you? If you can straddle the bike, put the kickstand up, and use your hips to move the bike in your hands, side to side, you've probably got a bike that's comfortable for you. You don't need to have the biggest. You don't need to have the fastest. You don't need to buy into a whole lot of silliness. And realistically, your first bike ought to be a used bike. So you can make your mistakes on it, and you can get comfortable, and you can perfect your skill at riding. Once you've gotten that, trade your bike in for the big bike you wanted to begin with. But there's no need to start out, with something that's well over your abilities to deal with. There's just no point in that.
But well said there, because I'd imagine a lot of people are like, I just won the lottery, I'm going to buy myself a Harley, I just retired, I'm going to buy myself a Harley.
Exactly.
And they go off and drop $40,000 on a motorcycle, and they wreck it 6 hours later.
Either that, or it sits in their garage because I took it up to the end of the curb one time, and oh my God, I'm never getting on that thing again. And there it is. It's like, man, why? That's just, no need to go to the moon first. No.
Baby steps. But
baby steps.
Get a trainer first and foremost. It's like, I didn't even ask you before we started how much you charge. I was like, $200 a day, $500 a day, way less than that. And it could be very affordable for people to do that.
Exactly.
And it's like there's no reason you shouldn't have Mark show you. Who else is going to show you? Your brother-in-law, who wrecked 3 cars.
Or
three
worse than
motorcycles?
that, you walk into that, like I said to begin with, male or female, you walk into that culture, and chances are good you don't want to ask a stupid question.
Right.
And so, as it turns out, you learn the answer to that the hard way. No reason for that. No reason for that. None.
You got it there. All right, a couple more things. Driving around town, driving over bridges, pulling into parking lots.
Yeah.
These are all things that are just common things, but why is it driving over a bridge? Oh, temperature difference, water. What's the issues with
What
driving
about
over
the
a bridge?
grates?
The grates? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you
All right.
feel that in a car, imagine that on 2 wheels. More so than that, over the bridge, what do we have going on over the bridge? One, it's higher off the ground. What does that mean? It's open. It's exposed. What's happening then? Wind and gusts that you weren't anticipating necessarily. And how is your bike going to react to wind? How are you going to react to wind? So that's an example of bridges. What were the
driving around town, just a matter of, I guess, is it safer to drive around town than to drive on the highway? Or it can be equally dangerous depending on
equally dangerous.
Okay.
A simple thing, all right, and I mean, I'm out here in St. Peter, so I'll use Mexico Road, which is, as you get down towards Highway K, it's a split road. So we have 2 lanes going one direction, 2 ways coming the other direction, and a suicide lane down the middle. Which lane do you want to be in? Well, you would think I want to be in the slow lane all the way to the right, because that way there's where the shoulder is, and I'll be safer there if something goes wrong. What you're not thinking about is the fact that you have all kinds of residential streets connecting to Mexico Road, and people will pull out in front of you because they did not even see you. You're safer being in the fast lane so you can get to the suicide lane if somebody pulls out in front of you. And you have to be thinking about what's possible. You can't take these things for granted like you can in a car. They see you in a car. They don't see you in a motorcycle. So therein lies the point. Like I say, it's awareness more so than it is, it's all going to be safe. It's not going to be safe. You're going to roll the dice every time you throw a leg over that saddle. So the more you know, the more you can anticipate, the more that you can assimilate while you're in the process of riding, the safer you will be.
Obviously, there's lots to consider here, and Mark can help you to cover all of it because he has that expertise. So it's not just on the bike training. You have a little, like, private time, class time, sit-down time, where you have a discussion. Let's talk about this stuff before we get on the bike.
Absolutely.
Make sure that we
all
understand.
And then we'll put that into practice, and then we'll discuss it again. And then you will refine that. And then you can go home to your neighborhood and practice these things that you have learned. It'll make you a better rider. It will make you a safer rider. And it'll prolong your time spent enjoying this awesome sport.
We just spent another half hour. We didn't get to talk about parking, another important thing. Go to Mark's website. He'll help you with that. Get a hold of him and learn how to drive your motorcycle.
By all means, please do.
Giddy up.